All right, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Squares. We got another great one today. My name's Shane.
I'm Carrie.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. Let's get this show started.
All right, we're going to get the show started. So for this episode, we got a returning guest, Tyler Chin Tanner. He's the founder of independent comic publishing company, AWBW World. Got started way back in 2005. So we're going to chat with Tyler about some upcoming projects, and we'll get started here. But first of all, Tyler, welcome back, but also congrats on, I guess, some 18 years or so in the business. Looking forward to 20 and then hopefully a lot more after that, right? So go ahead and kick us off. Let us know what you've been working on.
Yeah, thanks. It has been a while. I founded it during my final year at the Joe Kubert School. So, it did get an early start. I just went right for the independent thing. So, but yeah, it's almost been 20 years now, which is pretty amazing to look back at that. And I've published something like 30 and maybe I've hit 40 books now. So, it's been something.
You're a
for
pro.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you just wake up and keep doing it, and then you turn around and be like, oh, hey, I've been doing this for a while. So
right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any big plans for the 20 years?
Yeah. Good question.
Oh, man. There. I need to make some. I've been planning out next year. So I guess next year would be the 19th. So yeah, next year I'll start planning to do something. I don't know. Maybe we should bring back the first comic series I did. I'd love to revisit that one. Adrenaline was my first one. I did, and I was working on that one at the Kubert School, and Joe was actually giving me pointers and feedback and stuff. So I don't know, maybe a one shot or a revisit, where are they now for those characters or something.
There you go.
I don't know, just some ideas. But
well, they seem to always be like the WB. Everybody's clamoring for the the Zack Snyder cut. So maybe it's the Tyler Chin Tanner cut.
Yeah, something that would be fun. Yeah,
the director's cut. Yeah,
years.
It would be fun to see. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, no. I was just thinking. I remember because when I started collecting comics, Marvel was having its 25th anniversary. It had the borders with the characters around it. I remember that was one of the things that got me into comics. I was like, oh, look, getting these covers, and the 25 just seemed so long. To think back to when the first Fantastic Four was that, and to think I'm almost at that point. Now closing in on that.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I know, yeah.
I was going to say about your if you ended up doing going back to the first book, it'd be fun to even have at the end what you remember from Joe Kubert's notes and feedback and all that stuff, just hearing your learning process along with it. I think that'd be of interest to a lot of people. I mean, I would love that.
That would be really neat. It's funny. I published an Ashcan before that came out in 2005, so that was almost the moment that I considered our founding. When I did that Ashcan between my second and third year, I brought that to conventions and stuff, and that had some of my early sketches. It was some rough stuff to see this printed. I'd be like, man, it was student artwork publishing but it was just an Ashcan. But it was interesting to look back and see what I was thinking back then and my motivations and stuff. So yeah, I could, reprint some of that probably because not many people have probably seen that Ashcan, as well as some other thoughts. Yeah, that would be pretty neat. So you'll have to have me back on for the 20th anniversary.
For sure. Exactly.
There you go.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
So for our listeners and viewers, if you haven't seen the original episode we had with Tyler, we talked to him about his series Mezzo. And a little bit about the founding of AWBW World. So you can go there to hear more about all that comic and stuff. But I want to bring up Mezzo again because I know that you've been continuing with it since we last spoke. So can you tell us what's been going on with that series?
Yeah,
and a little bit more about that series. So for those who haven't heard the original episode.
Yeah, so that's the Mesoamerican inspired fantasy. It's completely fictional fantasy world, but it's inspired based off of Mesoamerican history, Aztec, Mayan, that type of thing. Sort of you take a Game of Thrones that's based on the Anglo-Saxon, time period. It's sort of based off of that. So I wanted to play in that sort of world, but also not be constricted to telling the historical tale or anything like that. And I just thought it would their mythology and just some of their migration stories and the eclipse and dealing with things like that, I thought was ripe for a fantasy series. And my original collaborator on that was Josh Zingerman, who also went to the Kubert School, and he did the character designs in the first 2 issues. But then Val Rodriguez jumped on from issue 3 of volume 1 and worked straight through volume 2, which came out last year, which I thought was really neat, really fun working on that one. And yeah, we jumped right into volume 3, and we were working on that, but he got hired to do a Vault series, and his first series published work was through Vault, called Deep Roots, and he's about to have a second one come out. It's called Unnatural Order. So I feel like I want to give it a plug because Val is my collaborator on it. So it was great to see him get another go at Vault. So I was like, yeah, take a break. It's fine. So he took a break between, he's completed the first 3 issues of it. And we were originally going to put it out, this year about this time. But it's fine. No big deal. Happy to push that to next year so we could do that. And he's only got 2 issues left. So he'll come back at the end of this year, finish that up, and we'll put it out early next year. And so for the people who haven't been reading, I mean, and you should go read it, but it's really just, the backdrop is the solar eclipse is coming. And 12 years ago, when the solar eclipse happened, it caused this earthquake and volcano, which destroyed a city and sent some of the population into the other smaller tribes. And they decided that they should rule everybody because this was a lower civilization. So it's sort of a clash of civilizations. And now with this new one coming up, they're a bit worried about what's going to happen this time. And the empire that rose from it has declared, their God has deemed them to rule over everybody else. And if they don't conquer the land, God will punish them again. So that's sort of their motivation for taking over everyone. And volume 2 was Battle at Coben Rock. That's where we saw the big battle come to a head. And so I don't really want to spoil it. So I think people should go read that. Yeah. But number 3 is sort of the fallout from that. So super excited to get that out next year.
But that's a heck of a setup. When you talk about it, you talk about the clash of civilizations and the ruling class. I don't know if you're watching it. Ben, I imagine you might be Foundation.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh my God, fantastic stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Asimov, but I think what they've done with this is, kind of like what they did with Blade Runner. They took the element of the story, and it was like Dune, right? It was once deemed unfilmable. They tried it in the 80s, and it was kind of like, is that the one with Sting in it? And then, from there, it kind of was like, that was kind of the cult thing. And then it got a little more popular. And then all of a sudden, Denis Villeneuve comes out with his after the Blade Runner, and everybody was like, holy crap, So you talk about that. And I think that's a common, I shouldn't say a common theme, but I think that's a real good theme because I think it's prominent I think in some ways, with the big 2, right, they talk about that kind of a thing, but it's more focused on the characters where, like with the stories that you guys have been writing, you're talking about the, you have the consequences for the whole civilization, because as we all know, when that era sort of, the Aztecs and, the Mayans and all them, eventually it all sort of died out and nobody really knows why. Nobody really knows what happened. So I think, like you said, the mythology is there. And you got this huge sandbox to play in because I don't think it's a lot of it is not, it's undocumented. So you can really sort of pick an area and just sort of, drop your story in there, which I think is pretty neat.
Yeah, that was exactly the idea. Yeah. A lot of it was destroyed too, when the Spanish conquistadors came through and there was a big battle there, and then they just, destroyed a lot of the records. And
right.
Some of the new discoveries have actually come from satellites. That's one of the things that I learned, because the forest is so dense that you just don't come upon all of these old cities and sites. So since satellite technology, they've actually been able to find some of these very remote ones, and that's given them new things to sort of read, the carvings on the walls and the columns and stuff. So that's sort of grown our knowledge. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking some bigger, societal and cultural implications. I was just really digging for the readers when you get into volume 1, especially. I just really dig your Darth Vader-esque villain, the guy who can't see,
Yeah.
who can
Fagor,
still,
yeah.
and he's, yeah.
You know,
I always
funny
looked at him like,
story. Yeah, he's a great guy, completely designed by Josh. I got to give him all the credit for character designs. He really started the series off great. He drew that helmet on him. I'm like, how does he see? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, you know what? He's blind. Let's make this character blind. And his origin completely came from that. And I was like, you know what? He was blinded during the eclipse. That makes sense.
Oh, that's good.
But he gained
right?
these super extra senses because of it.
Yep.
And so I thought it was kind of neat to have the big baddie, like be, I guess, kind of sort of like a daredevil in that sense. I don't quite say it's not sonar or anything, but it's more of just the sensory thing. So it's been interesting to write because when he's like fighting and stuff, you kind of, like in my instructions to the artist, of Val, is like, make sure you're thinking like somebody who doesn't actually see, who can sense but isn't seen. Mm-hmm. So like we have his head, like, don't turn his head around, right? Like if somebody's coming from the side, he doesn't have to turn first. He can just,
just
go
wax
like that.
Him.
Yeah. So it's been interesting playing with that.
It's kind of like the character in Rogue One. I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. He can't see, and he's just striking out with the bow staff and just knocking people all over the place. And you're like, man, how does that dude not get laser blasted through the chest? And and eventually, unfortunately, he does. Spoiler, but
man,
he made it almost a whole hour and a half. Look at that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of everybody gets it in that movie, right? I mean, I think we know that.
Yeah, they do. That is definitely the entropy movie of Star Wars. I got to tell you, I've and I don't know, whatever's propelled you to it is, I'm glad, but I've started seeing some more, of your publisher's titles in some of the local comic shops. I actually ordered and made them pick up, back when it came out, Crash and Troy, and I don't know what it was, but when I first heard it, when we talked to you a year ago. And I was looking at the title. I don't know why it made me think of this, but do you guys remember the video game Ratchet and Clank?
Yeah.
It's a PlayStation game. I don't know, but I say Crash and Troy, Ratchet and Clank. It kind of sounded that kind of, but I really like that title. That was just like a playful little book that I dug that.
Oh, that's great. It's so great to hear. Yeah, it just got nominated for Ringo Award for Best Humor Comic. So
did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
so there you go.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, because some of the titles you guys had were, just great stuff, just really, really, deep thinking stuff. But it's nice to throw something out there that just, is just one chuckle after another too,
Yeah, it's funny. But I did think it dealt with some issues, that I don't know, that are similar, just in a more space intergalactic way, because you got the rival, planets and things like that. And
I really like that, because I know we really didn't talk about it. We got into some of the more weighty stuff, but I just wanted to let you know I really like that book.
Great. Yeah. No, that's perfect. I think some people would like that. I'm really trying to keep pushing that out there and get
for sure.
So.
Yep.
Have you seen, speaking of what Paul was saying, have you got to see, like, since we last talked, a bigger expansion into new markets for A Wave Blue World?
Yeah, we've been building like in so many different avenues, and I think that's just the world today. But like, digital is picking up, and we're getting more readers all over the world who are reading it on the different digital platforms. We're growing in the book market. Barnes and Nobles and independent bookstores are picking us up, and comic book stores. It's been an interesting time over the years with periodicals and comic book stores. And are we going more bookshop? Are we going into comics? But I gotta give, retailers some props, man. I mean, they've gone through the pandemic and everything, and I think we've got some of the best comic shops and comic book stores owners doing the best work that we've ever had in the industry. So, I'm just trying to get to know as many of them as possible, have them try out some of our books, and really build that relationship.
Yeah. Can you, so continuing on with like the new stuff for A Wave Blue World, I know you had sent us over the cover for Sharp Wit, the Company of Women. You said it's an anthology. Can you tell us about your involvement with that anthology?
Yeah, so that was a Kickstarter book, and they did do a Kickstarter version, and I think they're gonna be distributing it shortly. But we picked it up for retail and book market distribution. There's going to be an extra story in it because there was one that didn't quite get finished in time, and we'll
Mm.
put our own sort of trade dress and production value into it,
Mhm.
and bring it out into like a bigger audience because I think that as much as it did well on Kickstarter, I think that when people get a chance to pick it up and look through the finished copy, that there'll be a whole new audience for it. And the idea is it's sort of women like throughout history, but it's not historical. I mean, like fantasy or not fantasy, but well, sort of fantasy, but like fictional tales through history of women and empowerment, all through sort of the lens of a sword or a sharp object, right? So you've got sort of like the Joan of Arc and a pirate tale and
Mm.
things like that. So
Yep.
it's like action and adventure and a little bit historical, but also just very much about women empowerment and those kind of themes. So
Yeah.
just some
Yeah.
great work, some great creators in it. I was just blown away. Like I like the idea, but when I saw the finished stories, I was just like, wow, we get some amazing creators in this. So it's a beautiful book, and I'm excited to put out our edition in March for Women's History Month.
Oh,
Awesome.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome. In fact, well, as you off camera, for the listeners, Paul and I were just talking up that cover too. It's just
Mhm.
gorgeous. Who did the cover art? Do you know?
Tula Lote, I think I
It was
pronounced her.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's done some amazing covers. I'm trying to think what I've seen covers that she's done recently. I know she did a book with Scott Snyder. That was a
Yes, she
comicsology
did.
original. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. Well,
yeah,
this one
beautiful,
was
beautiful
gorgeous
book.
and definitely draws you in right away.
Mhm.
It's one thing Paul and I were talking about is like picking apart the different
Scars.
little details. Yeah, the scars and that, and
Yeah.
it's just, it draws you right in. So
Yep.
yeah, so it was amazing.
Yeah.
And
So
oh,
one of
sorry,
the
go ahead, Paul.
Thanks. Yeah. So one of the other, and this kind of goes back a little bit, so we'll jump back and forth a little bit. But I was going to say, well, and the reason is because, like I mentioned before, I've seen a couple of titles in the comic shops, and this one it's a little older. It goes back a couple of years, but American Terrorist.
Mhm.
That's one. I'd like to maybe see you revisit. I don't know. I know you've got the collected edition, right?
Yeah.
Everything. I don't know if there's any more plans for something like that, but I don't know if watch the news or anything, but
There's, it's we put
social,
that out. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
socially relevant. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. That was the second book I ever published, and
right.
I was putting that out during Occupy Wall Street time. You remember that?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. 1%.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's only just continues to stay relevant, and it's weird. It's one of these like it's older books, and yeah, there's just always something in the news that's fits with what we talked about there. So I
Yeah.
don't have any plans to like revisit because it's like a 200-page full book,
Yeah.
and it ends
It's like
pretty
220 or something.
conclusively.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to just keep getting that book out there.
Yeah.
If people aren't burnt out of politics, like
Yeah.
that's
You know
part
what
of
though?
it.
Have you ever met Howard Chaykin or spoke with
Yes.
him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember quite a few years ago, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but he put out that what was it called? Divided States of Hysteria.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you haven't read that or haven't read it in a while, man, that's some weighty stuff. I mean, Howard doesn't hold back. He's
Right. No,
he
doesn't.
says
Yeah.
exactly what's on his mind. And it was another book. I think it was. If I get this wrong, forgive me. I think it was Scout Comics might have put it out. The Recount. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Yeah, take a
might
look
know.
at that. It's called The Recount.
Okay.
And that's basically one of those where the vice president doesn't feel the current president actually won the election and takes action.
Oh, okay.
This is probably a couple of years ago. So once again, I say, somehow socially relevant, but it was pretty crazy stuff. So there's been and then The Recount actually came out with a kind of like it wasn't a series, but it was like a one shot, like 2 years after the original series. The original series was like 3 issues, I think maybe, but it's called The Recount. So if you guys like that kind of stuff, like, and it's real similar to your book, Tyler. So that's why I bring it up. Those were the couple that like jump out. You don't see a title like that in your local comic shop sitting next to Batman, right? So when you do, you're like, whoa, wow, okay.
Yeah,
I love that
yeah.
stuff.
No, we definitely were trying to get some attention.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, it's got to be great though to go into your local comic shop or just hear that that your stuff is making it out there. It's unfortunate that the shelves are as overstuffed as they are because there's a lot of stuff that sits there for a long time. And I know the other publishers, they the comic shop has to buy 25 issues of this Marvel title. That doesn't leave a whole lot of room for others month after month after month.
Right. Yeah, that is the business. And it's why I've been just trying to find a nice balance between, putting out something consistently, but not too often, or not on top of each other. Like we're always only putting out one book at a time, so, that's our focus for right now. And, same thing with our audience is like, we're not asking them to buy too much or spend too much money all at the same time either. It's just like, all right, we'll have another book out, next quarter, or we're just running one series for this year, so. Yeah.
Well, it allows people to catch up too, because I'll tell you, Marvel and DC have to do the 1-page recap because I can't remember what I had for breakfast most days. I'm buying the stack every Wednesday, and it's like, they just start going with the story, and you're like, I don't even remember, but whatever, just page turn,
That's how yeah. Oh man! So, but I'm sorry. I was jumping to speaking of like this stuff that's coming out from AWBW World. What's on the docket? What's coming up for 2024 and beyond?
If
you can share,
I can share a little bit. But I mean, some of it we've already talked about. But I didn't want to skip over Tower coming out in September.
Yeah.
We just ran that series. That was a 5-issue miniseries, and the book is coming out at the end of September. So that's, our one remaining book for 2023, because, as I said, I try not to do too much at a time.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. I think that'll be neat to have in a collected book too. Because, like you said, with miniseries and all the other comics that are out on the shelves, sometimes people don't get a chance. And I know we sold out of like number 2 right away, and I'm like, man, I don't know if people are good. Like, how many readers did we lose from them not being able to get number 2 or something like that? But that's just an issue that you run into. I mean, it was always available digital, and I try to get some more out there. But that's just sort of the nature of things. But that's a really neat sci-fi story. It's sort of like Ready Player One meets Hunger Games. It's an all-out competition, but it's all through sort of this virtual reality world. But they don't know quite what's happening to them outside. It's sort of like that TV show that was really popular about them working inside. Why am I completely forgetting? Severance.
Severance.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Right. So they're inside this game, but they're like, how did we get here? We agreed to this, kind of like thing, but they don't know why they did it. So they're a little bit lost and confused. And then inside it's all about this getting to the top of the tower, and they've got to fight each other, and they gain weapons and animal assistance, like these virtual like shells of like there's a bear or a wolf and things like that. So it's really a fun action. It was fun to see it being done in a comic book page because, used to seeing that on screen, but that the way they were able to use panels to give this sort of like tunneling feel, claustrophobic, but also open it up for like the battles and all the digital stuff and the pixels, and, people get hurt, they get pixelated and stuff. So that's a really fun series. And that's coming out, in September, like I said, of this year. And then, our first 2 books we talked about already. Sharp Wit and the Company of Women will be our anthology that comes out in March. And that's really neat. And then Mezzo Volume 3, The Trial of Rodin, starts in May, the first issue, and that'll run for 5 issues. And so, those will be our first 2 releases of 2024. Really exciting stuff. I might have to do some sort of sword themed promotion for 2024 because we've got Sharp Wit and we've got Mezzo. So plenty of blades and swords.
There you go.
That'll be our theme.
have like, remember the old foam swords they used to sell, in the toy store? Just, yeah, some kind of foam sword, just like your own design,
Yeah, exactly.
kind of like He-Man's or something.
No, we got a chance to read the collected edition of Tower, and yeah, man, the artwork is just on point. I love your guys' art. I mean, the story is obviously really fun and intriguing, but as we've talked about on the show, it takes all pieces to fire, together to have a really intriguing book. And thankfully, yeah, your team here with the action, shots, the action panels and stuff, they really captured I don't know, they really capture that look and feel, and you feel like you're. Paul and I have talked about this before. Sometimes when you're reading a book, it's almost you forget you're reading a comic, and you're in it like you're watching a movie, and that's how I felt a lot looking through this one. I mean, you got a ninja star flying, like the close up on the ninja star, but you feel like, or I don't know what they're actually called. Shows how old I am. Yeah,
Shuriken. I know that from reading Usagi Yojimbo.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. Either that or turtles. I'm sure it was mentioned.
There you go. Oh yeah.
So what are you reading right now?
Oh, real fast, because I did want to neglect, because we talked about Tower. The team there, which is great. There are two writers, awesome. Cameron Johnson and Kelsey Barnhart. They met in acting school. Cameron was on the Batwoman TV show. He played Lucian Fox and Batwing. And then Kelsey's his writing partner, who they met there. So they were fairly new to it, but I love this idea. And then so we got Chris Cross, who's a industry veteran. He worked at Milestone. He did Spider-Man for Marvel. So we needed somebody who really knew what they were doing. And then same for Andrew Dahlhaus, the colorist, who's been around for a while. He made that, that finishing touches on that. The line work looked great, but to see those colors pop like that for, like you said, the weapons and everything like that. So, hats off to them for the team on that one. It was great.
Yeah.
So, what am I reading? It's so hard to find time to read. I do go to comic shops and pick up mostly indie, though I think I've been picking up some Marvel DC here and there. Oh my God, can I look? Can I cheat?
Hey, it's never cheating, especially the bigger the pull list is, the harder it is to remember.
No, I know. Yeah, I've got my rack back here.
Is that the vault one you picked up during a con? Didn't I see that?
Which? Oh, the vault. Yeah, my display. That was at Comics. That was at Comics Pro in Pittsburgh. And
that's right.
I drove there, so I had my car, with a big trunk and everything. But they had flown in, and they're just like, we don't want to take this back with us. So I was like, I took it, just threw it in the car. So I put in the Vault trade paperbacks. Yeah, I love Vault. I've been reading, a lot of their stuff. I love Barbaric. Money Shot came out.
Money Shot.
Awesome.
Resonance is a really cool one. Heathen. These Savage Shores is one of my all-time favorites. I love Rom V. So I've been reading his detective comics and stuff. So that's the mainstream. I've been doing that. I've been reading the X-23, the new X-23 comic, because Erica Schultz writes that. That's really neat. I just like that character. I hope they do more with her. I know that
Erica's a great writer too.
Yes. And then she just put out Christabel, which is really interesting. I just got that. I don't know where that is. My studio's a mess, but you should check that out as an independent title. I should have been more prepared.
No.
It's all right.
I read mostly indie. Whatever company something comes out with, because a lot of us. I mean, I just published The Wave of the World, but I feel like a lot of my peer group, it's it could be a Scout, it could be a Mad Cave, it could be, whatever. So I just follow, whatever the new one is and pick that up. So,
And there was some good stuff coming out. I'm glad Titan Comics has picked up Conan the Barbarian. I'm looking forward to getting that because when we were in Phoenix, what was that now? 2 months ago already. Ben, I traveled out to Phoenix to see these three cats, Ben, Shane, and Mike, and we actually did a series of interviews from Phoenix Fan Fusion. And one of the creators we spoke to was Dan Panosian. And Dan Panosian is doing. He's I think he did the cover. I can't remember if he did the interiors, but we talked to him about a bunch of the stuff that he had done and how he started and how lucky he got. He just fell into it. He submitted his artwork, and what did he say? Neil Adams or something looked at it and was like, "Hey, this is pretty good, kid. Here's what you got to do, and let me send your stuff over to the editor." He was like 16 at the time, and I'm just
Really?
like,
Wow.
"What? Yeah, oh yeah." I was like, "Man, what did we do wrong?" Geez, they must have got my stuff lost. I must have put the wrong address down. I just said Marvel, and of course they didn't get that right.
Right.
But there's a couple that I picked up. I told these guys about it. There's one called Scrapper, and it's about these dogs who are like sentient. They have like collars on that allow them to communicate with each other, like in words almost. And it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic thing. And the dogs are going out every night, like looking out for people, right? So they're like jumping into the middle of danger and all this. But it's almost like a kind of like a Blade Runner type world where they send out these drones at night, and the law, the magistrates at night come out and they look for these dogs and they try to hunt them down and bring them back and all this. It's crazy. And then there's another one I picked up. I'm gonna have to read it again because I don't know what the hell happened. It's called Shit Kicker and Bullseye.
Wow.
And
That's the title.
I was like, okay, I love the title. I got to have it. And then I read it and I'm like, what the hell did I just read? And I knew what the premise was. And it's still, I'm like, okay. And that's a great thing about a paper copy of a comic. You can always get to the end and go, let me do that again. I don't know what the hell I just read, but yeah. So crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Tyler, before we head off here, can you share with the listeners and viewers where they can go to learn more about Wave Blue World and your upcoming projects?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place is our website, which is just awbw.com. I may have a crazy, hard to say. Yeah.
Right on your shirt.
Exactly. awbw.com is our website.
Nice.
Thankfully, I was able to get the 4-letter URL, so I didn't have to make everybody remember. The Blue World. Wow. I love because I came up with my company while I was still in art school, and I was like, "Yeah, this would be funny."
Yeah.
And now here I am, 18 years later, still publishing a Blue World.
Worked out, man. Worked out. Rolled the dice.
At least it's different. Some people
Yes,
complain about it, but I'm like, but at least you know me. Even if you can't say the name, I'm the one.
That's right.
You can't say.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's the best place. I'm on, most social medias as just Tyler Chintanner, or a Wave Blue World, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever what Twitter used to be.
X Twitter, yeah.
We might be leaving that one. I don't know. Yeah, Instagram and Facebook are probably our main ones. For sure.
And we'll have sorry.
No, I was just saying, you find me there.
I was going to say, we'll put the links then, and we'll have those links in the show notes and in the video description on YouTube. So take a look there and make sure you visit their site and keep up with all of Wave Blue World stuff. And on the website, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but you guys have back issues and stuff as well, so people can catch up on these.
Yeah. Shop has all the books that we've published, and I just send them out here, I just pack them up securely and send them your way. So yeah, it's a good way to get it if you're looking to pick up some of our titles, because I'll just ship it right out to you. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was just a fantastic interview with Tyler. It's always fantastic. It's just great to have independent creators on the show and visit with us, and they can discuss firsthand what they've been working on and things that are coming up and just what's going great in the world of indie comics. We really enjoy this opportunity to bring this kind of content to the audience. Obviously, it's a lot different than what's typically on the shelf, so always give them a try. We'd love to keep bringing you this kind of content. So don't forget to click the like and subscribe button down below. Everything will be in the show notes. So thanks for watching and listening, whether you're on YouTube or you're listening to the podcast. We look forward to seeing you all in the next one. And remember, look out for the little guy. Take care.